something, he first requires a faith walk. And the faith walk requires that even though you don't see it, that God is working it out. And that's where your faith in God really comes in. It was about this time in my life, about 34 years ago. I had just moved from the place I was staying that was close to the school I was teaching at, and I moved closer to St. Paul AME Church where I was worshiping at. Distance to the school didn't make a lot of sense, but distance to the church, I wanted to be closer to the house of God. And so one day, while going to work, a little snow was on the ground, and there was a curve and a hill on the road. I put the brakes on, and the car slid straight into another car, and got into a head-on collision. Was knocked unconscious, taken to the hospital. And for the next few moments, I didn't know where I was. Pastor Joanne and I had been dating for about, 6-7 months. So I called her up to see if she could get me from the hospital, take me back home. And then once I got home, I realized I had no car. And I lived on a hill that was like climbing Mount Everest. And I realized I was going to have to take public transportation to get to work every day. And this was in the middle of a Boston winter. And so the first couple of days, once I recovered, going up that hill, 10 degrees below zero, I said, God, what are you doing? And Pastor Joanne was kind enough to suggest that maybe if I learned how to drive her car, it could help, but her car was a stick. And as we shared before, if you're dating someone, never try to teach them how to drive. So Pastor Joanne and I broke up for a week. And so I said, I lost my car, I lost my girlfriend, climbing up this Mount Everest hill, 10 degrees below zero. And then on top of all of that, the insurance claim came back and said I owed more on the car than what it was worth. So I was paying for a car that had been totaled. And with all of this going on, I wondered why God was doing all that he was doing, until I began to have to take public transportation. And God just gave me the idea, why don't you just start reading the Bible on the way to work? And so I started reading the Bible on the way to work. And each day, that hill became less hard to climb. Does anyone know if you walk long enough, you will get in shape? And I said the hill became less hard to climb. I got used to the cold weather. And I was looking forward to the 45 minutes I was now taking public transportation to read the Word of God. And I began to find myself growing in him. This adversity turned out to be my blessing. And shortly after that, while coming home from church, on the radio came a song, "It took a miracle to put the moon in place. It took a miracle to hang the stars in space. But when he saved my soul and made me whole, it was a miracle of love and grace." And after that song finished, I can't explain what happened, but for the next, I'm assuming 30 minutes, it may have been 3 hours, I just had an absolute peace. And from that, I began to look back and realize that from that accident to that moment, 6 months later, God had been putting different pieces together unbeknownst to me. I thought he was killing me, but in reality, he was blessing me. And I just began to see things beginning to come in alignment.